I didn't pack. Obviously, I haven't actually done a formal agenda. I just thought we'd just keep it pretty casual. But yeah, so I've just got a few updates to do. But I thought maybe Tara, you might like to start.
I'm just going to have to move my computer and share screen and. So many cables.
And obviously, since there's not many of us, everyone just jump in if they have questions.
That's a very low. I'll give it back to you. Right. Now I've got to share my screen. There you go. Right. So even though I can't see you, I'm guessing you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, right. So,
your screen, because I can't see anything.
sorry?
Your screen. Have you got something on there, or? I mean, sorry, are you?
I do on ours.
Oh, okay. Maybe the display's different.
Display settings. Do you want me to have a look at that?
Yeah, it should say mirror screen.
Duplicate.
Yeah, duplicate.
Can you see it now?
Are you sharing your screen?
Yeah.
Hmm?
So if you go into the screen,
Down the bottom of Zoom, it'll say share screen down the bottom.
there's like a green arrow in a box on the Zoom screen, and then it says share
Here we
screen.
go. Gotcha.
And then just pick your PowerPoint screen.
Oh, not that one.
Yeah. Got it.
And now you can see it.
Sure can. That's fantastic.
Okay. All right. Oh. Get rid of it.
Just put it in presentation mode.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So I will introduce myself, seeing as I haven't met Sally before. My name is Tara Slavin. I'm a research scientist for the department, and I'm based in Kununurra. So I'm working in tropical fruits. At the moment, the main focus is on mangoes. So I'm just going to give you a presentation on where we're at and where we're going. So in terms of the mangoes, we're looking at the projects that we're doing at the moment are looking at understanding the marketplace in terms of consumers and promoting the new varieties. For Sally's sake, we've got, we're part of a national mango breeding program, and there's, sorry?
Can you just like press S5? Your PowerPoint isn't actually, it's like not in presentation mode. So if you either click the like little presentation in the right hand corner, or if you press F5.
F5?
Yeah, I think usually does it. Because I'm like seeing,
Just down the bottom of your screen, there's like a big TV set. One of those icons on the right hand side. Keep going across. Move your cursor across a couple more.
to the
Oh, this one?
Yeah, don't go to there. No.
it's like a screen sitting on a little stand on the back.
So you can't see that because we can see it on our board and
No.
Display settings. See what's up there.
presenter view and slideshow.
Yep, slideshow.
No, that's my presenter view though, isn't it? So I think I've just swapped the screens around. How do I go back?
Can you duplicate your?
It's all right. We can read that anyway, Sarah.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, we don't
Sorry?
know how to get back.
Anyway, yeah, no, we'll be right.
So
That one there is the one you want, just below your cursor, your pointer now.
yeah,
That one.
I had pressed that one.
Okay.
It's up on our board.
Yeah. Oh well. Let's. We'll keep
So
going.
shall I keep going or?
Yeah. I'll just,
Okay.
yeah, I'll let you know if we need. The slides appear to be anyway, so.
Okay. And yeah, so I think for Sally's sake, I will probably explain some things that most other people present know, but about the new varieties. We're part of the National Mango Breeding Program, and we have 3 new varieties, which we're our department's part owners of, so we're very interested in promoting those new varieties. But we're also interested in looking at solutions to some industry limitations, which I'll talk about later. And we are working across Northern Australia. We're working with Queensland and the Northern Territory, but also within the WA mango regions. So I work quite closely with Carnarvon, and I have contacts in Gingin as well. So the work that we've been doing that I want to talk about today is we did a consumer acceptance study and willingness to pay study on the 3 new varieties last year in Perth, and basically people from that the main outcome was that people do like the new varieties and they are willing to pay more for them. We've also been doing a sunburn management trial. We did it last year and we're repeating it again this year. So we were using a stress reducing product with its active ingredients was dicarboxylic acid. And from the results that we got last year, that had no significant impact on reducing sunburn. Another thing that we've been working on during lockdown was planting a new parent block, and we'll be using that for future breeding trials. And then I'll just talk a little bit about what projects are we're working on at the moment and some projects that we'd like to work on. So the title that you saw calling...
I don't think our slides have not progressed. We're still on number 2.
Okay. Because mine, well, I don't know, because mine is here and it's on our screen, so I'm not sure how to...
Maybe unshare it and reshare it again.
Yeah.
That one.
What's that one?
See all slides. So
So you've unshared it. Yep.
and now, was it that one or that one? Which one do you select?
Let's try and see. Yeah, because you've got 2 screens, haven't you?
Is that working?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the consumer acceptance and willingness to pay study we conducted last year on the 3 new varieties. We actually contracted Griffith University and University of Adelaide to help run the trial, and we ran it in Perth on the 30th of November and the 1st of December. We had 9 sessions, I think of 134 participants, and it was like we first did a survey which was about consumers' buying habits, and then we conducted an auction style study to try and take out some of the bias. So people actually had to bid money. They were given $20 each and they had to bid money for the mangoes, both before and after tasting. So they got to have a look at the mangoes, all 3 varieties and a commercial variety. It was R2E2. And then they got to taste it and bid again. So before they had even tasted the fruit, people were willing to pay up to 18 cents more for a 1243 mango. And then after tasting, the 4069s, there was no difference, but they were willing to pay 26 cents more for a 1243, 49 cents more for a 1201, and actually 64 cents less for an R2E2.
Sorry, Tara, this was compared to a KP or an R2E2?
R2E2. There weren't any KPs that were at the same maturity level at the time. And I do have a copy of that study if anyone, I can email it to anyone if they want the full results of that study.
Sarah, Joseph here, just want to know the additional saying they want to pay is based on what attributes factoring that opinion?
So you're asking what attributes influenced how much people are willing to pay?
Did they actually put a reason why they will pay more? Because of the texture, because of the flavor, because of the size, or what was the reason?
Well, that's in the full report. If you want me to send you a copy.
Yeah, I would assume, Tara, it would be before tasting would probably be, you know, a bit visual.
Size, colour. Yeah. I think that after tasting as well, because at one stage they were allowed to look at the size of the seed too.
Oh, okay.
So seed to flesh ratio kind of thing, yeah. And then texture, flavour, smell.
Yeah, okay. And what were the key attributes that the consumers had to score on when they were actually eating?
Before?
Sorry, did you do, was there like a taste test where essentially like they got given a blind tasting and had to score certain attributes when they ate it? Or was it just the...
It was about how much they were willing to pay. I mean, yeah. They did do some scores of sweetness and smoothness and those kinds of things as well. But it was so they knew what the variety was. There was no blind taste testing. They knew what the variety was. Then they could smell it, taste it, feel it in their mouth, and then they had to write down a price that they were willing to pay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so with the Sunburn trial, like I said, the dicarboxylic acid didn't have any significant effect on the sunburn. The only attribute that affected the amount of fruit that had sunburn was the side of the fruit that it was picked from. So the north side of the tree, you can see that there is more light on that side of the tree, and that definitely increased the amount of sunburn, which you would expect. But we are repeating that trial as well. There was a couple of issues that I thought we could improve on. I've started the treatments much earlier this year. So with these stress reducing products, you have to apply the product before the stress event. And with this particular product as well, it says before 30 degrees. So I'm like, well, yeah, there's not many days that are below 30 degrees. So I monitored very carefully the flowering, and right from the first flower, we got a few flowers in June. I then monitored that, and then 7 days after petal drop, I started applications. So I think last year I didn't start until mid-August. So I started about a month earlier applying it this year. Also, there were a couple of applications last year where the wetter wasn't applied. We sort of thought, well, we're not sure. We didn't think it would have that much influence, but this time we've made sure that there's been wetter applied every time.
So Tara,
Yep.
that product, was that screen or photon that you used?
Photon.
Yeah.
Photon. Yeah. We chose that product because we know of at least one person locally that is using that product, and we just didn't have a lot of trees to work with, so we just chose one product. So we've got the control and one treatment at this stage. But you know, the advantages that we saw of this product were that you know, there's no withholding periods, and also you don't have to remove it. There's no issues with once it going through the packing shed of actually trying to remove it from the surface, right, compared to like a sunscreen.
Yeah. Quentin, do you use a silica product?
No, I don't use anything.
Yeah, okay. Because I know a couple of growers in the NT have been using, I need to check what it is, but they use some sort of silica product for stress, but it also sort of almost forms a barrier, particularly for like sucking insects as well.
Oh, okay. Steve Angel did some work with a sunscreen of some sort. He did mention the name, but it went in one ear and out the other, I'm sorry to say. So he may be able to give you a little bit of information, but I don't think it was very successful.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Just be very careful with anything that leaves any type of visible residue, because you'll have major issues with the supermarkets rejecting the fruit, because any residue, even if it's, you know, the avocado industry is having a lot of issues with residue, sort of, even if it was a calcium deposit, a lot of customer pushback on things on the outside of their fruits and veg that they all suspect that they're poisons.
Yes, I had heard exactly that comment, and I know when I packed the first bit of fruit for the Galango property last year, I was asked whether I could get that off, and I said, I don't even want it on there to start with to see whether I can get it off.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem with that screen duo. I think on the honey golds, they found it really hard to get off.
And most of those lime or calcium based, are they? Or?
Well, judging by the residue, you would think so. I haven't looked at the ingredients.
Okay.
Kaolin.
Yeah, that's. Oh, there's some kaolinite products that don't leave as much of a marker screen though, so I'm just not sure what's actually in screen.
Yeah, so we're right in the middle of repeating that trial at the moment, and yeah, I'll be able to let you know this time next year what the results are. So I spoke about the new parent block as well. Last year, we actually reviewed all the varieties that we've got on the research station here. We wanted to sort of consolidate. We used information, genetic information from Queensland, and selected the varieties based on the most diversity. So varieties that were quite similar, we sort of picked one over the other. And anything that we had that Queensland didn't have, we kept, so on. So yeah, we reduced the number of trees we had by about 20, and just to rejuvenate as well, we've set up a new parent block, which was interesting because that was all being done during lockdown. Trying to manage that from home, but the tree's doing well. And yeah, so the main aim there is that we've got varieties that if we want to do any future breeding programs, we can use those. So some projects that we're working on at the moment, we're putting in an expression of interest to the CRC for Northern Australia, along with Queensland and Northern Territory, using LiDAR to create a three-dimensional digital image or digital twin of the orchard. So for those of you who don't know what LiDAR is, how do you, got notes here and I can't see them. So you're basically using a laser and it bounces back and creates the image. It's used in construction and yeah, it's a widely used technology. It just hasn't been used a lot in agriculture yet. There has been some work done in macadamia, but apparently it's going to be much easier in mangoes because it's got much larger leaves.
And that's done from ground level, not from up above.
Yes, from ground level. So this, the picture here is that machine is actually going to be sent across from Brisbane, and I'm going to have some Skype lessons on how to use it. And the purpose of this is to create a decision support tool. So by having a digital twin, you can apply different management systems without having to actually do it in the field and then wait and see what the outcomes are going to be. But the purpose of them sending the equipment here and me creating a digital twin of our orchard is that because we're already doing this sunburn work, we will already be getting data on the fruit quality. So we can use that data to ground truth the information that we're getting from the LiDAR. In terms of that project as well, the application's due in on the 30th of September, and basically we're looking for industry co-contributors, whether that be cash or in kind. But like, if you are interested in doing something like this on your orchard, and we took an image and then you let us take some fruit for that ground truthing, then that's basically a cash contribution. So if anyone is interested in that, please let me know, and I've got a form that needs to be filled in by 30th of September. Anybody else, pass that on to anybody who's not attending at the moment. The other thing other trial that we're planning on doing this harvest is on the new varieties, again, looking at creating hot water treatment protocols. So there has been some initial work done on hot water treatment for, fruit fly treatment, that kind of thing, in a previous project, and it was found that the new varieties do cope quite well with hot water treatment. So we want to expand on that and actually create protocols so that they can actually be used for like exporting to places like China.
That would normally take vapor heat treatment.
Yes. but there's other advantages to hot water treatment over vapor heat treatment.
Where you can do it a lot quicker.
And
Oh, not so much quicker, but larger volumes.
yeah, and cheaper.
Robert, is there an international standard for hot water treatment already?
Yes. Yep. I think the current protocol for China allows for hot water treatment.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we're actually working again with Griffith University on that one. They have some funding through the ACR, which is the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research, for people who don't know. Yeah, so that's going to happen this harvest.
So is that more to just test that the current protocols are commercially viable for those varieties, or are you trying to adjust the international standard?
No, it's about having the scientific data to show that that this treatment works for these varieties.
So the issue with all of our other commercial varieties is that the hot water treatment process has created so much damage to the fruit, they were no longer commercial from a quality perspective. So it's good that these are showing a positive quality result.
Yeah, that's what the initial results show. So.
And you're going to research what commercial processes would achieve the research outcome you've got so far. Is that like the procedure for how it would be done on farm? Is that?
No, not a procedure. That effectiveness of the treatment on these varieties and
righto, the first step. Yep.
And some of the other projects that we'd like to work on is, again, has been some initial work. Well, the initial work that was done, like with the hot water treatment and so on, that was an ACR funded project, suggested that more work on ripening of the new varieties would be worthwhile. So like ethylene versus temperature for ripening. We were planning on doing that this year, but we have some infrastructure issues. So hopefully resolve those and be able to conduct that next harvest. I'm also hoping that next year we'll be able to use an impedance flow cytometer to analyse the pollen of the parent varieties that we've got here. So it's looking at pollen viability and so on, which could help with future breeding programs. And at the same time, while we're collecting that data, collecting the flowers and so on, I've been talking to a colleague in our head office, and he's working with Curtin University on actually collecting traces of insect DNA off like the flowers and so on for pollinators or whatever insects are actually visiting the flowers. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to tie both of those projects in together next year. That had to be put on hold this year because of lockdown. So yeah, just in conclusion, the consumers did really enjoy the new varieties and they were willing to pay more for them. With the Sunburn, the dicarboxylic acid doesn't appear to reduce sunburn, but we are repeating that and we'll have results next year. And yeah, we're still working, even considering all the restrictions that are in place. People can't cross borders and so on. We're finding ways around that. And yeah, just with that LIDAR proposal, if anyone is able to give any co-contributions, cash or in kind, please contact me before 30th of September. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Do I share now?
I can do it from this end. Cool. Great. So,
Can we have a small discussion about Sunburn? Was this inappropriate or an appropriate moment?
Appropriate, 100% appropriate.
I just look at quite a number of things, like we have one Calypso grower here, and he never pits one full side of his orchard because of sunburn. And he gets phenomenal results even without it. So for instance, he has 600 trees and does 6,000 trays off that, and he only picks one side of the tree. When I planted the 4069, that's a late variety. I'm going to run into trouble with sunburn, obviously, and
Possibly,
I'm trying to,
but
in my
I
mind,
haven't
work.
seen it. It doesn't seem to affect the 4069s as much as the 1243s.
Right, but I was wondering, there's about a fourfold idea that I have, that I've been having chats with Peter Johnson about shade, right? So originally, if I had enough money, I was going to trellis my 4069s and keep them down at a level. And if we were able to put up the shade, and it may only be as much as bird netting, which gives about 15%. I was talking with Peter and said, oh, you know, what do we need, 25 or 30% shade? And he said, oh, good God, no, 15% can sometimes triple your results of production. And then I've had...
Actually, PJ might have mentioned it, but they're actually doing that trial in Carnarvon with Neil Lansky and the department.
Oh, excellent. Right. Okay, so the other thing is that I've had huge kangaroo damage this year. And I thought, if you're going to put up shade, you can make it kangaroo proof as well at the same time, and keep the bloody 2,500 magpie geese to the hectare out, and the bats, and a whole pile of things. And I thought, maybe, I reckon they'll just break in. But yeah, just a physical barrier, the sprays and what have you. The other thing is that Kununurra is not getting any bloody cooler unless something strange happens this year. It's only getting hotter, and we're getting to the stage where we're getting flowerings, good flowering in August, and just not keeping it. And maybe we can turn that around, and maybe an orchard like Jim's, if it was covered up, you could harvest both sides of the trees and probably get 10,000 trays to the hectare instead of 6. So I wonder whether we could find some funding to trial a bit of netting that would give the desired sun effect and also lock out the kangaroos. Because unfortunately, we've burnt the Kimberley so much, there's nothing left for them. So they come to the only green patch in the place, and there are thousands of them, not to mention magpie geese feeding up on the corn and what have you. Then that all runs out. What's next? Next buggy, yeah. So look,
Tara, do you know where
we could get that from?
if Neil has got any funding for that project, or it's just department money?
So
For Carnarvon.
The Carnarvon,
it's David, my understanding is it's just at the moment it's mostly our funding, isn't it?
Yeah, at this moment it's nearly all ours. He has put in for, or he is in the process of putting in for some funding through the CRCNA for some sections of that. There was application went through, but I think they ended up getting cut out of that, didn't they, for the high density orchard funding that went in last year. So right now, my understanding is it's nearly all, if not all, departmental funding, but Neil is looking towards getting some additional funding in there from various sources. But right now it's us, but I agree with, it's a very interesting trial coming from Tasmania. Everything's netted down there to keep out hail, to keep out pests, and netting is just as common as dirt down there. So it seems a very viable option, and particularly the first instance, Sunburn, is really going to benefit from it. And one of the issues is with this LiDAR, if we can look at trees where all the sunburn fruit are and model what the light regime is, wherever you get a sunburned fruit, you'll have an exact light regime for every single fruit and an exact sunburn level for every single fruit. And instead of having 4 or 5 treatments, you'll have thousands of treatments all through the tree. Each individual fruit, you'll know exactly what its regime was and what the consequences for each individual are. And so instead of just half a dozen different treatments based on a tree, you'll know exactly what every fruit experienced and what the consequences for that fruit are, which is why we're quite keen on that LiDAR version. And we're also keen on it in that the supercomputer required and all the very expensive LiDAR equipment is all being supplied by someone else and we're not paying for it, which is quite good. So, but Neil's trial down in Carnarvon, it's going to take a while to get the trees up and the shade up to a size where it's going to start to get good data from. But it's all pretty much all department at this stage.
Quentin, have you looked at actually trying to take all the fruit off or not have any fruit on that sunburn susceptible side? and you know, does the tree, you know, make up for it with the rest of the tree?
Side, it's always an interesting one, Robert, because it's the first side to flower generally and produce fruit, and you live in hope that you can get something off it, even if it's chuppy mangoes, before it burns. But I've noticed that my one row of trees that I have there, and it's quite prolific, the flowering and the fruit set on there, but it's all burnt now. Took 1 week. As soon as it hit 37, I lost the lot. So, yeah, I'm going to take it off now, but pretty much chuck it on the ground. I don't
versus leaving the fruit on to take away nutrition from the tree and end up being unsaleable anyway.
Yeah.
Like spraying it with a gibberellic acid or something or ethereal to actually stop the flowering to start with on that side of the tree, on that portion of the tree.
Yeah, the biggest problem I have, Robert, is that I'm in a residential area, and so as you even thought about bringing out some sort of spraying machine, the neighbours think they're being poisoned immediately. So that's a little bit difficult, but I mean, I could go up there with the cherry picker and just knock them all off. But yeah, I think we need to find a way to make that fruit stay there and be pickable. And I'm almost convinced now if we redesign our orchards, I mean, I haven't done a very good job of setting mine up for trellising. For instance, I've done the 3 arterials on all the trees because I just couldn't see myself funding a trellising job or getting the time to do it. I wonder whether I could cut those trees back now and start again, you know, look for 1 leader and put it on a trellis. But I'm pretty convinced that it's not just the sunburn, it's all the pest control at the same time.
Okay.
So...
is it a dense? What's your planting spacing?
5 by 5.
That's pretty dense.
Yeah, and I did that on a diamond pattern because the rows, I believe, were actually facing the wrong direction. So by doing a diamond pattern, I can actually run the rows off at a 45-degree angle.
There was a theory about that years ago.
Yeah, so, but I still think we've got to block out some of this sun. It's just too bloody hot. And although we try hard to be early here, it just doesn't seem to work. So maybe we've just got to come up with some way to cope with this August flowering. Anyway, I thought I'm happy to donate an orchard, because if I don't do something, I'm probably not going to get much off it anyway. And, you know, theoretically, I could do off that hectare that I've got there, but theoretically, I could do 5,000 trays off. That's a fairly productive thing compared to the old trees that I had there. And I think the best effort I got was 150 10-kilo boxes. So I would like to see if we could make it work, but I would need a bit of help. But if in kind I could, you know, offer the orchard, I'd be happy just to pack it.
Yeah.
But if I have to try and recoup, you know, another $40,000 off that hectare, it's going to take me a while. And unfortunately, you can all laugh, but I'm getting too old.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we can talk to Neil and see.
Not as old as Jeff, I know, but you know. So yeah, would be happy with that, and it seemed just with the conversations I had with PJ in the paddock, you know, that there has been work done on shade. I think maybe in Mariba. You might correct me on that, Robert. Do you know anything?
PJ said there's a really good orchard somewhere at Childers.
Yes, that's right. I remember that conversation, yeah. I was getting sensational results, like double and triple the production.
Yeah, we started talking about this yesterday, and he was saying he's just got hail netting only, I think, but it's done. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's when I heard from PJ, you know, when I said, oh, do we need to put up like 15% shade cloth or 25% shade cloth? He said, no, that some of these bird nettings are pretty much exactly the reduction that you need.
Well, you still need sunlight.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
Tara, do you want to move your screen back so we can, because I'm just looking at you right now. That's bad. Just back.
Is that enough people? Do you want people to bunch up?
Right. That's all right. I'll stop talking now. Anyway, that would be a project that I would love to get involved
in. Yeah, maybe we can speak to Neil and see if we could get like a pilot site in Kununurra for what he's trying to do.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is too that once you've got all the poles and things up, you can put micro irrigation in the canopy and all sorts of, you know, humidifiers, etc., etc. So the level of experimentation becomes huge.
Once you've got the straps of the
yes, yeah. And I'm not digging the holes, all right? Okay.
All right. Well, yeah. There's sort of a bit of a mixed bag. A lot of things have been happening. But if
sorry, Sarah, can I just interrupt? Do I have to unshare, or we were just wondering if we can put you up on our big screen?
No, I think I stopped you sharing. Can you not see?
No.
No.
We just say thank you. Screen. You're very. You're deeper. Not you're very stupid.
Sarah, it looks like you're sharing your screen at the moment.
These ones.
Yeah, I am.
Slideshow. You need to take your slideshow.
But you're not in presentation mode.
Why does it always do this?
We've still got our slideshow up there.
Yeah, well, she's trying to put hers in presentation mode.
Right there.
And Sarah, there's some notes in the group chat as well directed to you.
Joseph, would be keen to understand if you can still do LiDAR imaging on high density planting. Yeah, I would think so because, I mean...
Yeah, well, if it's on trellising, then Yes, it'll work very well.
So
No.
Kerry Walsh and Andrew Robson in that project, the Farming for Profit project's done a lot of work with LiDAR in commercial orchards. So I'd be directing questions towards Andrew on that sort of stuff. They did a lot of work with almonds, I think it was initially, but I think mangoes and abos were also part of that work. So either Andrew or Kerry would be worthwhile following up on that.
Why am I not doing this? Is that better?
No.
See you.
Oh, she said that she should be able to do that. Anyway.
You don't have it open twice on your computer, Sarah?
Yeah, the participant is sharing, so yeah, I can't control. Yeah, I think that's what I do. That's a forecast, so that's the bit we're all interested in.
Reminds me of the first Rotary meeting they had on Zoom.
That thing on the bottom here.
Yeah, but she's in control at the moment. It's not.
Yeah, but she's only in control of the slideshow. We're in control of that.
Yeah, we can
That's great.
so if you mirror image,
Is it gone? I was thinking if I just close your PowerPoint.
Why don't you?
Close your PowerPoint.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, cool.
Not for us.
No, not for you guys.
Hang on, we've still got the PowerPoint, our last PowerPoint up here.
Oh. That's
Because
weird.
it's not part of the Zoom thing, it's part of your screen.
Yeah, but I
thing,
can't
isn't it?
down there.
Down
So
there.
it's in the way.
Everybody huddled.
Can you shrink your screen for a minute, Sarah?
Do we have to shrink?
Yeah. I'll just try closing my PowerPoint.
Okay.
Okay, so can you try again sharing?
Okay. Yeah.
That's it.
So
So
she's
it's coming up
sharing
on
it.
our
She's sharing it
computer,
with
but
us.
We're not
Yes.
sharing with our big screen
It's
now.
not going up to our big screen. Maybe
Maybe it's the display.
pin
Can you
pin video. It's
like
fine.
settings, like if you like duplicate?
Should we just try it on the small screen? Are you happy with?
Yeah.
Can you say it clearly enough?
Yeah, I can.
I'll send it to everyone as well.
Okay.
At the end. But if you can't see anything, just tell me and I can read it. I can read it to you or something like that. Yeah, so forecasting obviously has started again. We've got Darwin, Kununurra and Catherine out now, and we're also going to have the Bowen Vertican out next week. So we're definitely, we're definitely down a bit on last season. So we've now started doing this crop flow chart each week, as well as that table forecast that I just showed you before. And this sort of we just wanted to give a bit more of a visual representation, because sometimes that table can be hard with all of just looking at a table full of numbers. And what we've actually done with the crop flow chart is that we've also the thin line that you see on top of the bars is actually last year's crop, so you can kind of track how the crop is comparing to last season. So if you can see, then we're probably only about 2/3 of what we were doing this time last year, which is sort of what we're seeing from the feedback that I'm getting. We're sort of had a couple of patchy early flowerings and then had a much more uniform flowering, which Quentin sort of talked about before in that August period, which for most growers has not hung around and won't really give much fruit. So yeah, we're sort of left, we're down on volumes, and compared to last season, it's looking later, but you know, some growers might say that's sort of more normal timing for them as well.
So Sarah, for Darwin versus last year total, Catherine versus last year total, Kununurra,
yeah,
how do those numbers look?
Yeah, so up here now we've got so last season for Darwin, for example, so actually the overall crop was down a bit last year. So we had a national, our national crop was 8.9 million trays, and Darwin did 3.1 of those, and Catherine did 1.5 of those. But the year before, Darwin did a bit less at 2.2 million, but we actually had Catherine at 2.3 million in the 2018-19 season. So for this season, we're looking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I can't hear. We can't. Sorry, Sarah. We just worked out how to get your screen up, but now we can't hear you.
And the battery's going to run out.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, that's better.
I just stopped talking. Yeah, so you can see on that table there. So for example, so in Darwin, down on last season, but still up on the previous season, but that you know, that is changing all the time. I think you guys are similar. Darwin's been having a lot of really gusty hot winds, so that's been dropping a bit of fruit off through, you know, physically knocking the fruit off the tree, but also growers are struggling to keep the water up, enough water up as well. And Catherine's pretty similar. Particularly KPs are quite down this year in all regions. So Catherine's looking at 1.8 million trays at this stage, and Kununurra down to about 155,000 trays. And obviously we don't know the national forecast yet, but
Sarah, what's the calypsos like in Catherine and Darwin?
Darwin, they're patchy, so they sort of had similar issues. I mean, obviously they're always going to produce more than KPs, but they have had similar issues in what I was mentioning. They sort of had those erratic early flowers, but then lost that late flowering that happened in August, most of it. So that's a bit patchy and spread out in Darwin for the Calypso farms there. But
They have got a well, you know, I've just been talking with Jim, and he's maintaining to me up until a week ago that he's got like a 5% flowering, and he doesn't even know whether he'll pick.
Yeah, right.
Considering he had 2 years of like 6,000 trays off 600 trees, to go to that is like our 2013 year here, where, you know, we went from, in my shed, you know, 100,000 through the shed down to 10.
Yeah.
But I just wondered whether it was overall, but I mean, his comment to me the other day is if he does pick, it'll be over by morning tea.
Yeah,
that's your Kununurra.
So,
oh, okay.
yeah, so that's the Calypso's in Darwin, not will definitely be down on last year, but the Calypso in Catherine and Mataranka, they're pretty happy. They said it's looking really good. So,
okay. Well, there you go. Because in the very early days here, when John and Pat Buchanan actually grew them, they were very, very late. You know, like we were packing Calypsos in December, and the last 2 years, the Calypsos are the first ones in my shed, and then this year, nothing.
Yeah.
So
I know, for example, some of the Catherine Calypsos will overlap with the Darwin Calypsos, and yeah, but no, things are looking pretty good in Catherine and Mataranka, but it'll more just be if they can get them off, if they can get the volumes off in time, is more their question at the moment, I think.
And the R2E2s, I believe that they are looking far better than the KPs.
Yeah, they're still down, but definitely looking better than KPs.
Right, yeah. So I'm just trying to verify stories that I hear, that's all. You know.
That's correct. Well, that's what I'm seeing anyway, so.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
So within all that, Sarah, the forecast at the moment is showing a similar crop to last year out of the north.
No, where.
Well, you're down 300 on Darwin and you're up 300 on Catherine, and you're the same for Kununurra, so that's the same.
Once you do the maths, yes, but I mean that's.
But the forecast is telling us that. You're reading into a whole heap of other bits that you're.
At this stage, yeah, forecast is looking similar to last year, yeah.
So if there's variances that you're seeing, I'd encourage you to be getting those growers to update their forecast to reflect the change.
Yeah.
Because you're the only ones that sees that. The rest of us and the rest of industry just look at these numbers.
Yeah. No, that's things are changing every week, and yeah, I'm updating people's forecasts every single week. So yeah, and as growers, it's hard to. I mean, you don't know what you have until the end, but you still have some idea, and we just adjust as we go along.
My general feeling is that 155 for Kununurra is probably way too high.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Righto.
Where do we? Which particular? Are you seeing that across every? Are you familiar with everyone's forecast in that, Quentin, or you're just?
No, I'm not. I don't get privileged to that. But
Quentin have a pretty good idea about who's in it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the big property, the Galango property. I mean, initial stages he was saying, I reckon I'll do 300,000. Then it went suddenly back to 70 and. Oh yeah, I've still got plenty of fruit, but yeah, I don't know that he's going to do more than 70. Yeah. Realistically.
Well, those trees are pretty hard pruned, so.
So if that's 70, when we're probably only going to get about 50 for the rest of us, if we have a good season. So. I would say probably closer to 30 the way things are shaping up my end.
Yep.
Weather too. We have the storms.
Okay, well, if we can get that updated, that would be good.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, Robert, but yeah.
Yeah. So this was the forecast versus actual from last season, but this was the national crop. So the forecast is the blue line, and the actual is the orange line. So as you can see, we're still we're still working on getting our forecast to keep up with what is actually happening, particularly so we can follow those trends. So, for example, in week 20 there? No, week 19 there. We sort of, for example, the forecast was sort of a week behind the actual peak of picking, and then again in week 23. So, it's a constant process, and just talking to growers every week.
When does the season? What is one?
One is should be the
First week in July.
Okay, so it's a financial year graph.
Essentially, we finished off in March.
Yeah. Okay.
Week 25. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just a dumb bastard and love months.
Sorry. Yeah. So no, start at the start of July, and at the end of March.
Okay. So yeah, this is not just Northern Australia. Okay.
No, this is
Mango thing.
Yeah, the whole. Okay.
Yeah. So this is Southern WA.
Right through to Gingin.
Yeah.
Okay. Are the predictions, like we've had a number of years where we start the third week in September, October's hammering, and sometimes we're finished by mid-November. Is there a feeling that there's a shift this year, that we're going to get most of the fruit in November?
So if you look at the forecast,
That's probably a good question, Sarah. We should look at graphing the full Northern Territory. We should, for the weeks that we've got the data, we should show the last year's line and this year's forecast. So just continue on that, which is actual, with forecast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people can see the relativity of this year's forecast versus last year's actual flow.
Yeah.
So I think we're a month behind.
The only thing with this chart is that I think we normally stop when we know another region's going to come in before it's published. But yeah, I can talk to Debbie about doing that. So essentially, fruit-wise, we're looking at the big weeks at the end of October and the first week of November. Well, first and second week of November. So far for the current regions that we have in here, and obviously we'll have Bowen Burdekin in next week. So we'll see then. But yeah, definitely. So in Darwin, big weeks, we're looking sort of in that period, the mid to end of October, and then Catherine is looking sort of that end of October, but particularly the first 2-3 weeks of November.
Okay. The other thing is that I'm sort of disbelieving the forecasts in the Darwin region, because there is virtually going to be no fruit from Darwin going to Perth, from what I can gather.
Hopefully. Yeah.
So if that's the case, they can't have very much.
There's a couple of growers who have done their seed level cuts, but they're still not sure if they will actually send anything yet.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot that just aren't even doing the cut.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that they do have to cut a lot of fruit anyway, so it's really restricted to a small number of really big growers that can afford to. I think it's 4,000 or 5,000 pieces of fruit they have to cut.
Is it that much? I thought it was 3,000, but I know that Steve has been going through the export protocols out at the big shed out here, and they're wanting him to cut 8,000 pieces of fruit to send it to Darwin.
Yeah. Owners.
Wow. And we never got any further with the protocols on whether we were actually seed weevil free.
In Kununurra.
Yes.
What
We
do
don't have it.
doing a proof of
Not
free?
that- Well, we don't have that as a like a protocol. We can't say that we are seed weevil free. Is that correct? Like we're medfly free, we have area freedom, but we don't have area freedom on seed weevil. Is that correct?
For an export market, no, it's not recognised, I don't think.
No.
So,
My understanding, Sarah, is that the area is classified as seed weevil free, and
technically, but Robert, you could probably.
I'll stick with that until the day they prove.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is domestically, but I don't know if that's recognised internationally.
When we were doing when we were doing the exports to Europe and that, we weren't having to do cuts prior to sending, so
Yeah, okay. I'll have
yes,
to
we're still free.
Yeah, okay. I'll have to check.
The Northern Territory guys would love us to have it, but you know, stiff luck for them.
But do we have an ICA for it?
Well,
We have an ICA for fruit fly,
Like
ICA 23. So
that's like a
we can
regional
write it. We can actually write a document, ICA 23 document, and that goes with the truck, and it says that we are free of medfly.
My only experience is sending fruit domestically, like from here to Queensland, and then on the certificate it says that we are seed weevil free, but I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I can check on that and get back to you about that. I'm not too sure.
Because that would save Steve having to cut 8,000 pieces of fruit. Well, you're possibly not going to be coming across the border this year, Sarah, but you were in conjunction with the AMIA cutting all our reject fruit, if you remember. Did that show any weight in, you know, our freedom of bugs and pests?
If you wanted to apply for, if you don't currently have a proof of freedom and you wanted to apply for a proof of freedom, a lot more would be needed. But what we are doing is more a to feed into, so like it's more about ongoing surveillance. Like I'm still doing it, and if I was there I'd still be doing it, but it's just generating a database of absence stuff. So when we do go to do trade negotiations, or we do go to say to someone, oh, we think that this area would be likely to attain a proof of freedom and things like that. But to actually do the formal process for a proof of freedom, it's pretty onerous as far as I'm aware.
Well, Sarah, if you're not coming across to do the cuts, do we need to organise someone at this end to do it? Or are you planning on organising someone?
At this stage, we were just going to sort of hit pause for this season and then continue back next season. It's nothing is going to fall over if it doesn't get done for one season. The data, I mean, is, you know, more data is always beneficial.
Well, we've still got PJ's nursery. He cuts a heck of a lot of fruit.
Yeah, exactly. So
you got other nurseries as well.
Yeah.
Wally's.
Are you talking about the surveillance project?
Yeah.
If the offer's there to assist that can continue, I'd be keen for you to have a look at how you make that happen, because ultimately, you know, that project's about industry being able to do that surveillance under its own steam without, the Sarahs and the Marines of the world doing it. So it would be a good test of the systems you've been developing to extend it out to, people other than yourself, Sarah.
Yeah. Well, would anyone be interested in doing it?
Well, as I said, PJ cuts an awful lot of fruit. I supply a heck of a lot of fruit to him for that very, for seed. And he soon works out whether the seed's got something in it.
Yeah.
Because it's completely gutted down raw, and he has had the experience of seeing a seed and saying, that one's got a seed weevil in it, this one hasn't. But if we can formalise that somehow.
Yeah, so I mean, the surveillance program that we have would probably does generate some amount of data, but that would only be sort of a supporting case to then go and do a proof of freedom. But an actual proof of freedom, just so you're aware, would be particularly extensive, and I'm also not sure who actually covers that cost.
I could have a guess.
Just so you know. Yeah, I'm not too sure of the process, but maybe I had previously looked into it for a different disease in another area, so I can have a look into it and see what we'd need.
Yeah, but Sarah, we'd be interested if we needed to help pay someone to do what you would have normally done to continue with that project. There's funding in the surveillance project to complete that activity. It'd be a real shame to have a data set missing in WA for those farms in this year. We're still going to have it everywhere else.
Okay.
So Tara, maybe someone in your team might be interested, or
Yeah, I'll have to talk to David. We'll have a discussion.
For you, Tara, about it.
Yeah. I mean, and it could be as simple as when PJ is doing seed, or the nurseries are doing seed, observing or go and do the random audit.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah. But it's not just seed weevil, it's more than seed weevil that you're doing your assessment for.
The surveillance program that we do covers a number of things, but I'll talk about that in a minute.
But all the cut flesh is still there, and what have you, it can be
exactly
rummaged through or whatever, rather than.
I have done on occasion. So.
It would still be as random as what you'd been doing. I mean, you don't cut every piece of fruit that's around here, but it's just an area of fruit. So I think that would probably work quite well, just an inspection service more than anything else. So.
Yeah.
I'll come and see you tomorrow, David, and we can discuss it.
Yeah.
David's gone.
David?
He's on mute.
Oh, right. Oh, he's talking.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm quite happy to discuss. We just need to sort out how much involvement it would have and whether we've got the resources to do it and who would fund it, whether we fund it or whether. So.
No, I'm saying we would have some funds that could certainly assist in the costing of that instead of having to send Sarah across.
I was going to say that, Robert, that we could utilise the funding that comes through towards the girls' funding anyway.
Well, because I'm
we'd be saving on all the travelling and all that sort of thing.
So yeah, we'll get back to you about that, Tara and Dave.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay.
If Tara can work out with you exactly what's required, then I can have a look at it with him.
Yeah, I'll send Tara through. Well, I can talk to Tara about what we do and what we think, how much we think we can do, and things like that. So Yeah.
Well, that would be good, because I have a fear that if we miss a year and then we ever go back, they say, oh, but you didn't do it in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right. That would be great.
And just looking where we're up to. So unfortunately, we don't have, so we do a weekly market pricing, which is up on our website and it's updated every Friday. Unfortunately, we don't have the Perth market included in this. But we do, you know, it is still an indicator of where the markets are at, and I am aware that the Perth market sometimes performs quite differently to the other markets, and particularly this season it may as well, but might just be of interest. It's up on our website, and we've got some great industry sponsors that are doing that for us. I'm not sure if the Perth market actually has a pricing report that you can request.
Yeah, we get one.
Oh, okay, cool.
The Kangaroo weekly report. They do weekly and monthly, and same as that.
And who?
Market City, is it? Perth Market City.
Okay.
It's just Market City report. I can send you the link. You just have to register yourself. It's not.
Yeah.
Register yourself. Say you're a grower or you're an interested party. So.
But,
and it's nice for everything. It's the.
I have heard that Perth's different though, because it's a voluntary thing, whereas in other markets they actually there's
also might not be all the agents.
In the other markets, it's independent consultants that do it, and that's a paid subscription. So
used to be once upon a time Johnny Mercer was the one that gave all the information.
So if we could get that and just have that linked, if it's available, there's no reason why that can't be part of the newsletter.
Yeah, I'll look into that. So dry matter testing this season, I currently have Tara's NIR machine, and I started a calibration today. So Tara, I'll hopefully be finished by the end of the month. So obviously I won't be there testing, but yeah, Tara will have her machine there. So if anyone needs their fruit tested this year, and obviously it's going to be really critical to have great tasting fruit this year, because if consumers don't have a lot of spending money, then they want to spend it where they know they're guaranteed the best eating quality. So yeah, maximising eating quality and also physical external quality is going to be really crucial in when you're sending your fruit to market this season. So as we all know.
It is going to be interesting though, Sarah, because I've got, just on my own particular thing, Nick might tell a similar story, but I've got a tree outside my office that started on the 1st of May and it finished flowering last week. And it didn't have like 2 flowerings, 3 flowerings, 4 flowerings. It had a continuous flowering. I'd love to have that NIR machine out there just to see what the range is, because I think it's just going to be a pig to pick this year. It really is going to be a pig. And I actually think we might get it wrong. So, you know, taste may become an issue on a year like this year.
Yeah. So I'm calibrating all the machines at the moment, but yeah, hoping to have it back to Tara as soon as possible.
Uh-huh.
And again on that, Tara, there'd be certainly some scope to provide some funding assistance to help you be out and about utilising that unit, with Sarah, with us not being able to get across there ourselves.
Mm.
If that helps.
We love money, Robert.
Money always helps. Yeah.
She might pay you for your shade cloth.
Yeah. So also this season, I know Tara sent some down with the NMVP trials last year, and I think Chris Robinson put a few in as well. But we have a pilot project going with a company called Escavox, who provide temperature tracking in the supply chain. So essentially, if there's these loggers, this is a bit of an animated photo, but probably inside your mango tray, and essentially they'll give you real-time temperature data. You can set it to whatever time interval, so you could have it 15 minutes, every hour, and when it has service, it will transmit a location and real-time temperature data. And this year it's really exciting because last year we didn't have this capacity, but this year we have the capacity where if growers are doing tracks, then they can actually log in and just watch their fruit go down in real time. So we're offering, I think we're offering up to 10 free tracks for growers if they're interested. And Tara actually got a message that there's a box of these waiting at the post office.
We've got them, they're right here. Printers are sitting.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, Tara can show you.
If we lose one, Sarah, how much do they cost?
$120.
Okay, thank you.
But I mean, we have good, most of the major agents in Perth, we haven't really had too many problems getting them back. I know like Shane, he's great. Shane and his team are good at taking it out. And if anyone uses Brad at Farm Direct, and I haven't spoken to Adrian yet, but they're normally pretty good at getting them out. So, yeah.
I have another agenda. I don't want them to come out at the agent.
Oh, okay. Righto.
I want them to go right through to the very end, and they'll be strapped in the bottom of the box and secured so that nobody knows it's there.
Right. So where's your destination?
I don't know. I don't intend getting it back until the battery runs out.
Right. Okay. Well, the battery lasts for 3 months. So.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, anyway, but we do have agreements with the major, well, Coles and Woolworths at this stage about taking them all the way through to store on the East Coast. So if there is...
Oh, good, because they had it where they didn't want that to happen. And so, that's where I believe all our dramas are. Not so much with the trucks, and not so much with the agents, but further than that. For instance, I know that the fruit that goes down from Mambaloo gets through the DC or goes through the agent, through DC, and then gets transported back to Kununurra for sale. I know that it is transported between 2 and 5 degrees, mostly 2.
Right. Yeah. So I think they have their own program going. I'm not sure who it's with, Escavox or who.
They're very keen to say to us, oh, the fruit broke down, and they don't want to take it. But I would really love to lose a few of these things so that they eventually get right back through the food chain.
Yeah, well...
and we can map it, map it.
$120 each, so if you're all right...
If I lose one, I'll happily pay $120. All right. Actually, this one on the forms, it says we have to have them back by the end of October. Well, we're not even really going to be started by then.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about those.
Okay. Yeah. So just bear in mind, that's what I would like to see. Okay. Rather than just sending it down in the truck and trying to blame the truck for all the problems. I want to see it from when I put it in a hot box in my shed, and where I put it down into the cool room and then take it out and put it on the truck. I want to see all of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. This is not really... It's not really, I mean, it is about identifying the problems, but it's not so much about identifying the problems so you can point the finger. It's more that growers and people throughout the supply chain have a lot of preconceived ideas about what actually happens. So it's more about just being transparent about what's happening in the supply chain, and all of this data is going to be de-identified and published and used as industry data. So it'll be very transparent about where.
All right. Well, so that'll be good if we can take it right to the end.
Yeah, well, tell me where the point is.
What I intend doing is, rather than marking the box and saying it's got a data logger in it, I will log my barcode.
Okay.
Why don't you start with, let's talk to, is it Woolies or Coles that come back to Kununurra?
Coles.
Why don't we talk to Coles and tell them we'd like to do a trial. We'll recover it when it gets back to Kununurra and put it in a box and see if we can get them to physically put it on the truck that goes to Kununurra.
Oh, but most of the fruit that goes into that Coles is actually
Manbaloo fruit.
NP fruit.
Yeah, fine. Either way, they may well say no, we don't want you looking, but I would start there. They may say, yeah, happy to do that.
I got any information, Robert, they didn't want it to go as far as the DC.
Yeah, so they've agreed to do it to the DC. They haven't agreed for it to go any further than that. But I think you've got it's quite a specific supply chain getting all the way back to Kununurra.
Yes.
We'll ask the question, see what happens.
Okay. As I said, not that I want to point the finger, I just want to get that information, because it could well be that it's our fault at the shed.
Why don't you supply the local store with just fruit from your own farms? Anyway.
Because they've got to have harps to do it. And
we're getting pumpkins in, aren't they?
But you have harps, don't you? Don't you guys have harps?
I will this year, but I don't have the time to drive in 6 boxes every second day.
To Coles.
To Coles. Leslie would love to do it, but she doesn't have any accreditations.
Can Steve put some fruit in?
Who? Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah, but who's going to come pick it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all interested in loading a truck, shutting the door and getting on with the job.
Yeah.
That's the issue. So there are lots of small growers.
Quinton, I'm happy to talk to Coles about logging the journey.
Okay, that would be great.
However, if what it's going to tell us is a much more sensible solution is that for the Kununurra season, a local grower should be taking his 6 cartons into the store and delivering that. There's no point in us doing it just to point the finger and say, well, your current supply chain's not working, when there's a much more logical, simpler solution.
All right. Well, if you can get Coles to buy from
I can understand once the Kununurra season's finished, and then you've got the issue of how do you get it from, Carnarvon or Geraldton or Gingin back up. Then that's your only option. But we might have more chance in getting a solution if we work with them. That's all.
Well, we will have to deal with, to make this one work, we'll have to get an agreement with Manbaloo and Two's Garden. They're the 2 major suppliers of Kununurra.
Yeah.
Okay. See what we can do.
So there's a number of because Bill and Deb's gone now, but Bill and Deb both have harps as well, don't they?
Bill, I'm not sure about harps. Definitely fresh care.
Yeah.
Debbie definitely has harps.
Yeah, I think Bill might have harps. So then we've got 4 sheds with harps. So
yeah. As I said, there's nothing much we can do about the 2 to 5 degrees, but it would be nice to see it on a graph.
Yeah.
And same with the DC. I mean, they say, oh, no, the DC runs at 13 degrees, but, you get the likes of Peter Johnson that's been down there and he said it doesn't. It runs at 10.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to see it. basically.
Well, exactly. That's what this program's about, really. So, Rob, we'll get back to you about that one.
All right.
But yeah, if anyone does want to put some loggers in their fruit, obviously Tara's got that box there. So just let myself know and we can set it up.
But they're all marked for certain people.
Oh yeah, but I can change that around.
Yeah, because there was 2 separate boxes and there was basically a replication in one box of the other box.
Yeah, so, but I can change that around. That's not hard.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anyone would like some, just let me know and we can sort that out.
But thank you, Robert. I would like it if you approach Coles and see if we can, as I said, not to point the finger, just to get some data so that we know what we're talking about.
Yep, let's give it a red hot shot.
Yeah, because I don't even have any data about when I load a truck and what the effects of that are and what have you. It would probably be very interesting.
Yeah. So back to what we were discussing before, the surveillance program. So obviously we are looking for seed weevil and fruit fly, but there's a number of other exotic pests and diseases that might not actually be in Australia that the surveillance program is looking for. So yeah, Tara, I'll get in touch with you about that and hopefully we can sort something out for this season. And this, so when we're actually doing that surveillance, we actually use a phone app so that if we do find anything, we can assign a GPS to our findings. And obviously this data is kept confidential, but it's just so we know what's there and where it is, so we can go back and keep an eye on it and check that it's not spreading, check that it's not becoming a serious issue, or if appropriate action needs to be taken. So
But so far you haven't found anything, have you?
No.
Yeah, that's like.
Yeah, exactly. So and absence data is probably more valuable than presence data, really, in these kind of negotiations and declarations, things like that. There's been a couple of big chemical updates, probably since last season. I'm sure there's been many more, but just in case anyone has been using any of these, actually both the Dharma products. The Suprathon has been cancelled, so you have until February to use any of that up. But in good news, a lot of those pests that were covered under that have now been covered under Adama's new product, which is called Trevor. It's registered for a lot of tree crops. And particularly for Kununurra, it might be interesting to note that the Trevor can be quite helpful with the fruit spotting bug. So yeah, if anyone's looking for another option in their rotation, that would be interesting. There's actually 2 different active ingredients in the one product. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. And if you want any more information, I've got some contact of 1 or 2 of the guys at Adama that are really good. So, and for those of you who are doing harps or sending to supermarkets, why is that there? Anyway, the Coles has now accepted the Fair Farms ethical labour sourcing program. So that now means that if you're doing harps and sending into any of the major supermarkets, then you now have the option of Fair Farms or the SEDEX database for all of the major supermarkets, so Coles, Woolworths and Aldi. And on that note of accreditations, I do get a lot of questions about whether people need harbs, whether they need fresh care, and definitely a trend that we're seeing, you know, talking to market agents and obviously talking to the retailers and things like that. So obviously for the major retailers, they're really asking for harbs, which is a big ask, particularly for smaller growers like you guys in Kununurra. But we now are seeing a bit of a shift that there's a decreasing pool of markets for those who don't have a base scheme, and a base scheme is something like is like your fresh care. So yeah, so really if you're supplying bulk produce or you're a low volume producer, they're still recommending that you have a base scheme such as fresh care. And yeah, a lot of market agents say that they're really struggling to get enough fresh care accredited fruit at the moment. And it will also potentially impact on the price you receive at the market as well. So just a note for that.
Those discussions.
So yeah, as Robert said kind of at the start, we've been having quite a few online events, particularly considering the Queensland roadshows had to be cancelled due to some gathering restrictions. So we're actually having a webinar next Wednesday on the 23rd, and this is including all of that. So firstly, Trina and Tate from Hort Innovation will be talking about the extension of the marketing plan for this season, and then a new marketing plan will be done in line with the new strategic investment plan early next year. But then we're also going to have presentations and a panel discussion from all of the major retailers, except for Costco won't be included, but we're still going to have Coles, Aldi, Woolworths, Metcash, which is IGA, and Harris Farm Markets, which are in Sydney, Newcastle, and now Brisbane. So if you have any questions or you're interested in retailers' plans for the season, I think that's going to be a really good one, and see also how they're planning for an unusual year like this year. Outside of that, we're also having another couple. So we're having a chemical update the week after, and then the week after that also talking about export as well. But all of the webinars that we've been doing, so we've also done some COVID-19 specific webinars for the NT and Queensland, and also general videos around some of the projects that we're doing and things like that. You can check out on our YouTube channel, and I will forward these slides to everyone afterwards. So if you want to have a look at the link, you'll have it there. And yeah, we've also included our, we put together a COVID-19 grower guide, which is essentially a guide talking about how people should be managing their labour during harvest this season and potentially into the future. I don't know how many of you this will be an issue, because I know some of you guys don't really employ a lot of extra staff, but if you know someone who does, then that's a really good resource just about how to manage people on you know, peeking out in the field and in packing sheds and things like that. And just a quick mention, I don't think many of you are exporting, but just for interest's sake, there's a new pilot website which has some interesting export information. So if anyone's interested in checking out market insights, opportunities and trends, grants and funding, and laws and regulations into any export markets, protocol and non-protocol for mangoes, the link for the website is here. It's quite an interesting website. Mangoes has been a pilot crop, and they're looking at doing a few more as well. So that's pretty much all that I had. But I mean, obviously, if there's something in there that wasn't included, or you have any general questions, I won't be there in person this season yet, but yeah, please, I'm pretty sure all of you have my phone number, so please just give me a call at any time if you need any help. And yeah, hopefully I'm just finishing up calibrating the NIR machine, so hopefully I'll have that back as soon as possible, so if anyone needs their fruit tested and things like that. Yes, so, but I'll be staying in touch over the season. So yeah, any questions, feel free to just give me a call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beer time.
Good.
Beer time, it's bedtime over here.
It looks like you've got a mattress stacked behind you against the wall. Is that you just flop it down, do you?
It fell down on my head before. No, it's a bit of artwork, I think.
Oh, it's artwork, is it? It almost looked like a mattress. And I was thinking, oh my God, poor bugger.
I should have put up the mangrove background, shouldn't I? There we go.
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, that one.
I don't know if you've heard, but we've had a bit of a blow here in the fact that Toll is actually closing down. So they'll also be closing down in Broome, so there won't be any Toll in Kimberley's. Toll freight.
Oh, right.
So,
I knew that the manager had left, but is that a recent development?
No, manager's still here.
yeah,
Tim's still here.
Tim's still here. He only knew about it, I don't know, not so long ago.
Oh, sorry, I'm
He just
thinking.
rang up and said, you're finished, that's it. Pack your bags.
Pack your bags.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big blow, particularly for small growers, because a lot of us use Toll.
Yeah.
Cool rooms. So maybe Quentin suggested something to me.
I've got lots of suggestions for you. Because I'm still trying to work out how we're going to pack all the little guys' fruit, because there's barely a one that's going to do fresh care. So I'm trying to work out a resurrection of Australian outback mangoes again, and actually try and take these properties on. So it'll mean doing what I tell them, and water tests and MRLs and everything else in order to make it work.
Cover your butt.
Well, I have to do it for my accreditation. So
There's no trucks to take the fruit.
Oh no, I can get trucks, that's not a problem. But it just won't be cold for the little guys. But we have bishops. We have Bruce
Do you
Avery.
have bishops?
Eh?
Do you have bishops?
Well, if I can give them a full trailer, yes. Yeah.
No worries. Well, thanks very much, guys. I think Robert needs to go to bed.
Okay. See ya.
Sorry.
So, yeah, just
Talk to you all later, guys.
Did I say arrivederci? Ciao, ciao.
guys.
Okay.